What is up, everyone? I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Now, I was just prepping this aquarium because I want to do a super simple design. I have got a really beautiful water lily upstairs, and I was just going to use that as a focal point in this aquarium, and I have seen a Betta that I have fallen in love with, to be honest. So I've got him on reserve. I want to put him in here, and this is becoming a bit of a Betta tower. We've got our alien Betta at the top, and I thought that would look lovely in there. And then we came to put this tank in, and yeah, I'm obviously not very good at measuring. That doesn't fit, but I'm determined to get that in there. Now, when I bought this shelving unit and when I measured it the other day, I measured the size of essentially this piece of wood that comes out. And I measured that, which is 36 centimetres or whatever it is anyway. I measured that and I'm like, yeah, that tank will fit perfectly in there. And I did not take into account these metal uprights. So yeah, a slight problem. But I think it would look so good with that just like sat in there. Now, the only way I'm going to achieve that is by draining down the alien Betta tank, taking the top shelf out and dropping this down inside. Or at least I think that's how we're going to do it. Now, I'm hoping this is going to be fairly simple because we've only got one alien Betta in here and a few shrimp. Now, the shrimp can stay in there because I will never catch them out ever if I try and do it. Oh, and a few snails. But again, they can stay in there. He needs to come out. So all I'm going to do is drain the water down most of the way, get him out into a bucket so that he is stress-free and out of the way, pick that up and move it and hope that nothing goes wrong. Now, I'm hoping he won't be out of this aquarium too long, so I'm just going to drain some water into this bucket and then pop him in there. Oh, hang on, what have I got? Filter and heater. Let's unplug them first. Right, so if I get the majority of the weight out of this tank, it should be okay. Now, personally, I would never recommend moving a tank with water in it. I've done it thousands of times, but personally, it is always safer to remove all the water, all the rocks, all the gravel, everything before you move an aquarium. You will hear, like I say, loads of people have done it and it's been absolutely fine. On my recommendation, do what I say, not what I do, because if this goes wrong, I could need a new tank. And if you've only got one tank at home, that's a bit of a disaster. Luckily, I've got about 3 tanks spare at the moment. So if this does go wrong, this video will change. And instead of setting that new tank up for a new Betta, I'll be setting it up for him. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So we're off to a really good start in the fact that we've got the Betta out the way, we've got the tank off, I didn't drop or break the tank, which is a bonus. Now I'm hoping that I can do this without unscrewing it from the wall, because this is bracketed to the wall. Everyone, when I made this, was like, oh, I hope you're going to bracket it to the wall. Of course, like there is no way that I'd leave Quinn trying to climb this without it screwed to the wall, because he would be up it, definitely. But I'm hoping that I can just take this apart and slide the tank down in. If this works, this is going to be brilliant. If it doesn't work, you'll never see this video, so it'll be okay. But anyway, let's try this. What am I doing? I'm now questioning how many of you were shouting then, saying, you don't need to take that bit apart. Yeah, I know. I've now taken it off, and I've realised that I don't need to take that bit out. I think the tank should just slide down in with that piece of wood removed, hopefully. Yeah, Yeah, that was me being super stupid. I was going to take the whole thing apart. I suppose if I wanted to move... There we go. Hang on. Yeah. I suppose if I wanted to move that shelf down a little bit to give me more access, I could at this precise moment. Do I want more access, or am I not worried? I'm going to get the tank in there and see what it looks like. Right, let's see if this works. Oh my word. I've got no way of gripping this now. That's not a great deal of clearance, is it? And I definitely could drop that shelf down one more peg. Yeah, I think we're going to drop it down. So that fits really well in there. I think I can get this light unit back on. This was the AI blade that I was using over this little section. Yeah, that'll be perfect. And now I can get Mr. Alien Betta back on the top shelf, back in his home, and then we can continue with scaping this one. So it's a little bit murky, but the filter's back on, light back on, and my little alien Betta is back in. We'll let the filter clear that tank for a while, but that should be absolutely fine. So now we can crack on with this tank. Now I didn't know what colour background I wanted on this, but I have got these pieces of black foam board that I can cut to size. And that'll mean I can just remove it if I want to, because I was tempted to paint the background, but yeah, I can't decide on a colour. So if I cut 2 of these down to size, we should be able to use them for that nice black background. Now, because I want to keep this tank simple, I'm going to be using only a few kilos of rock. Now, I actually got sent some Weo elderly stone, well, actually to go in the last build that I done, which was the jungle flooded forest tank. So all that cork bark that Riverwood sent me, they sent me a bag of this to go with it, and I didn't end up using it for that project because, well, a lot of the rock would have disappeared under the leaf litter and you just wouldn't have seen it. So this tank is going to be perfect for that. There's a couple of kilos in this bag, and I'm going to try and create some sort of planter, I think, for my big lily that is living upstairs in the tank that has essentially overgrown that tank, and I can keep it a bit more trimmed and a bit more managed in here. Well, that's the thought and the plan anyway. I don't know how well that's going to work. So now I'm going to get the 2 kilos of rock into the tank so I can see what shapes and sizes we're working with. But what I'm thinking is if we can build up something in the back for that planter, we can fill that then with some plant fertilizers and some plant foods, and hopefully then the lily will take root in the back, and in the front here we can just have a, I think a delivery has just come because my dogs have just run off. Yeah, and in the front we can have a nice thin layer of sand that will keep a really clean look. So that's exactly what I was thinking. We've now got this built up area in the back that we can fill with soil, and we've got this front area that's, well, pretty much open to be able to just put a bit of sand in there. Hang on, let me show you the other side as well. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it's all banked up at the back. Now what I need to do is there's a few gaps and a few little holes between these rocks, and I need to make sure that the soil doesn't escape from the back to the front. So we're going to plug all of these little holes with filter floss. Now that we've hopefully plugged all of the gaps, we'll probably find some as we're going along, but hopefully that's most of them plugged with that filter floss. We can now get the scaper soil in the back corner, and that should hopefully provide us a good medium for the plant to go in. Well, the water lily. I've actually just found a couple of cupfuls of nutrient base as well, so why not get that in there as well at the same time? So with the substrate piled up in the back, I do also want to put some plant boost tablets in underneath. That is just going to help the roots grow really strong. It's probably a mistake because this lily is already probably a little bit big for this tank, but you know, we want it to be big and strong, don't we? This is taking shape really nicely. I love these simple builds. I've done a few complicated ones recently, and this is a nice change. But we have got a nice grey sand, so I'm hoping that once that's wet and once these rocks are wet, it'll all look a very similar colour, and we're just going to go for a fine layer around the front. So with the sand in, I think we're pretty finished on the aquascape, as I would call it. It's not really aquascaping because I've put, what, half a dozen rocks in, but I want to keep it simple. I want the main focus to be this lily. Now the lily is big and quite chunky, and obviously I have given it a large area. I'll take you up to the fish room in a minute and we'll grab it and I'll show you what I mean, but it's got a very small root ball. So it's going to look quite stark in the middle of that big brown area. So I think we're going to need some plants around it, but the problem is with the lily is it's going to shade everything. It's going to be a bit of a catch-22 with trying to get carpeting plants underneath a lily, where the lily is going to be using up a lot of nutrients and shading a lot of light, but also trying to cover that brown area. So I'm tempted to say that Anubias Nana Bonzai, the really small Anubias, and maybe some Bucephalandras tied to some little stones, just nestled in amongst the substrate, will give us that carpet effect without having to worry about getting light down to them. But anyway, next up, we need to go and get that lily out. We need to go and disturb that tank and make a mess upstairs and get it down in this tank. It's going to be a bit messy and a bit tricky, I think. So this is the water lily in question. Look how big it's got. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Look at all those leaves. They are gorgeous. But it's getting a bit too big for this tank. This tank is the Hardscape tank that I planted up, well, a little while ago now, to be honest. It's those plastic towers that are inside here. Actually, I think, here you go, look, I've got one to hand. These things. So yeah, you plant them up and then you fill them with substrate, and they are looking so good. But that lily is overtaking it, and it's just going a little bit crazy up here, so that's why I want to get it out. Now water lilies are quite cool because if you keep cutting these top leaves off, they will only throw out these bottom leaves, so I might end up doing that in the tank downstairs. Instead of having it all the way across the top as well as the bottom, I might just end up chopping all the big leaves off, but we will see how that goes Actually, a little bit of interesting information is Haberstacks is going to be releasing next year. So if you're interested in keeping it up to date with anything Haberstacks, head over to their website, Haberstacks with an X on the end. Head over to their website and you can register your interest, and they'll message you and email you with essentially what's happening and when they're going to be released. So I know loads of people were disappointed when it didn't reach its Kickstarter goal, but Dave from Haberstacks has got them coming. So soon, just hold off, wait, head over to the website and you can find out. But today's job is to get this water lily out. So yeah, this is going to be wet and very messy. And also I don't want this duckweed downstairs. Don't want that in this new tank. So yeah. Well, I don't even know where to start. I'm not starting because I don't want to make a mess, and I know it's going to make a mess. We just got to rip off the plaster, rip off the band-aid and go with it. Now, just to give you a bit of info on aquarium water lilies, is most of the time when you order them, and certainly when I got this one, they will come to you like this. That is the water lily bulb, rhizome. I can't remember what they call it. It's one of them anyway. But you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to focus, to be honest, but there are tiny little leaves coming out of that, and that is how your water lily will come. Now, I have obviously been growing this one on for quite some time. It was in one tank. It was doing really well, and then it melted and disappeared, and I thought I had lost it completely. So you can see the bulb has been growing really well, and it is chunky. Now, it has got that big now that it is throwing off babies. So I've got little ones to go in, as well as this absolute monster. So I guess what I'm trying to say is your water lily tanks won't look amazing from day one. They will take a little bit of time to settle in. But once they settle in, you will have something like this that will go crazy. Generally, give it enough food, enough light, water lilies do really, really well. But we are going to get this one planted, get it in, get it filled, and then we can see how much trimming I need to do, because all of this definitely can't stay in there. To be fair though, that tank upstairs probably hasn't got a lot more surface area than this tank. Yeah, thinking about it, the Haberstacks take up that back corner. So anyway, there's probably not that little space to go. So we might be okay. Now, there's probably no good way of doing this, but what I'm hoping is if I, almost like you're planting a pot plant in the garden, scoop a load of that forward so that I can get to the bottom, and then hopefully we can layer the roots in there and get it planted. Now all that's left to do is to get all of these water lily leaves in to the water and let them settle. Now some of these can probably be trimmed off because they're either older and a little bit damaged, or yeah, just not looking as good as the others. So I'm hoping that as we go through we'll see which ones need to stay and which ones need to go. Now it is looking a tad murky in here, but that's nothing to worry about because that will clear up once we get the filter running on here. Now some of you may have seen that I have already spilt a little bit of substrate out into my nice clean sand, but not to worry, we have a magnet on a stick. So for anyone not knowing, substrate like this is generally magnetic. So you can go through, magnet it all up, and then just wipe it back into your desired area or get rid of it. So we're going to go through that, make sure our sand is nice and clean, and then we should probably get a filter running. Now this tank when full holds around 30 litres, it's probably just under to be honest. So with that in mind, I'm just going to run a tiny little internal filter in there. This is a Biocompact 25 and as the name suggests it does up to about 25 litres, which should be perfect for this tank. You can gear your stuff towards how much stocking you are going to have in there. You don't have to go full hog and have big filters if you're only going to have one fish, which is pretty much the plan for this tank to be honest. I do also need to find a heater, but all of my little heaters have ran away and they are somewhere around the house or somewhere in my fish room, but I cannot find them. So I do need to find a heater as well, but for the minute, if we can get the filter running, then we can get the last of the planting done and then we can let this tank settle for a bit. Now this filter is a super simple internal filter and it is going to be perfect for the job we want it to do. The one cool thing I do like about these actually, can you see inside the nozzle there? You can actually slow down and speed up the flow. I think you can sort of see where it closes off and opens up, which is really nice. Inside you just got your standard impeller and then in the bottom you've got a load of foam, so it's perfect for this application where we don't want anything too complicated. Now I do need the suction cups to go on the back and then we're ready to chuck it in. Oh, one other thing I did forget to mention that comes with it is you do get a little flow diverter, so you can have that stuck on the front and you can have the flow directed, which actually might not be a bad thing in this tank because we can direct it away from the lily and direct it into the glass to make sure there's not too much flow around the aquarium. I've just come across a couple of other bits of elderly stone that I'm assuming Pete must have sent me from Riverwood Aquatics. Now I think actually that spot there might be perfect for this little bit. Just fills in that little gap. Sorry it's a bit murky and you're struggling to see, but I think I've just seen the perfect spot for this rock. And that's pushed back a little bit. I was trying to make the wall with it, but actually if I place it around the roots of the lily, that actually creates like a second wall, so I can plant into this bit with these Anubiases and maybe some Bucephalandra, and I can plant into this bit, and when I say plant, glue them to rocks and place them in this section. Now whilst we let the filter do its job on this tank and clear it, we can get the other plants prepped. So we are back with the Aquafleur plants as always. They are just such good little plants, but we have got some Anubias Nana Bonzai, which is the little leafed version. I think that's just going to be a nice little touch in there. We have got some of the bigger Anubias Nanas, but they are a little bit chunkier, but nothing too major. I've only got one Bucephalandra left at the moment, and I thought I had more, but you know, we'll just go with the one for the minute. I might have to take some cuttings from other tanks to fulfill my needs. Now as always, we've got to get these plants prepped, so it is just a simple case of taking the label out, giving the pot a squeeze and taking all the pot and the terracotta ring off, and then stripping all this lovely rock wool off so that we're ready to glue these plants to a little pebble. Now as always, we're just going to use a bit of cyanoacrylate glue to glue all of these plants to something heavy and then nestle them in amongst all the rocks and the bits and pieces in the bottom of the tank and make it look like it's been there for a little while. I'm actually going to utilise some of these terracotta rings that come out the bottom of the basket, and I'm going to glue some of the plants to them because I don't think you'll see them, especially as I can snap them in half. So the tank is starting to clear a little bit with that filter running in there, but we don't need it to be clear to get these beautiful little plants in. So let's just start by chucking a couple in and seeing what it looks like. Now we are fully planted and finished, and you are going to have to trust me. It looks good. It's a little bit murky. It's probably the murkiest tank I've done in a little while, actually. But I promise you it does look good. And once the fish are in here, it is going to just pop. It's going to look really cool. Happy with all the Anubias, happy with the Bucephalandra, but we just need to leave this tank now to mature for about a week, maybe 10 days. Let it settle, go and get our fish, and finish this tank off. I'm excited to see him in there. I think it's going to look good. Well, I'll see you in about 10 days-ish. It's actually only the next morning. I forgot last night to put in tap water safe and bacterial starter and also some plant foods to get these plants going. I know that they've got the nutrient-rich substrate, but it's always worth using liquid plant foods as well. But look how good that filter has worked overnight. I think you can vaguely see, other than the reflections, because it's the morning and the sun's come up and the reflections in this room are awful, but you can see how crystal clear that water is. So we just got to get our liquids in today, and then we can leave it for the 7 to 10 days to settle down and make sure everything's okay. So we're going to have 5 ml of tap water safe. That's going to get all of the chlorines, chloramines, heavy metals out of the water. We're also going to have 5 ml of filter starter, and that's just going to get all our good bacteria starting to run around the aquarium. And then we just need a squirt of plant boost and liquid CO2 boost to give those plants a little bit of food ready to get growing. It's already looking quite good. It's not even settled down yet. Now I've just been sat looking at this tank, and ultimately I want this tank for a Betta. Now I did want to keep the front fairly clean and fairly crisp, but ultimately the Betta is going to like a bit of tanned water, and it is going to like a few botanicals in there. So with that in mind, I am going to add some of these, which these are hang on if I get it wrong, Lipil tripod. How cool are they? So I think it's a different shape, it's a different structure, but a few of them just dotted in amongst the rocks and the sand will look really cool. And I've got a little bag of older cones as well. So I'm going to boil, not many, a couple of each up maybe, or maybe 3 or 4 of the older cones to be fair. Boil them up, get them in, and that will just give it that tanned water. It helps with their health. And watching the alien Betta above swimming around in amongst the leaf litter and stuff, I think they'll just add another element to this tank that means, well, the fish will be happier, which is our ultimate goal, right? Now there is always questions as to why I boil the botanicals, and there is no real right or wrong answer to whether you need to or don't need to boil botanicals. The one thing I think about is that there might be funguses, there might be things that you don't necessarily want to introduce into your aquarium, and that way the boiling process gets rid of them. It also gets rid of a little bit of the tannins, and some people don't always want all that tannins in their aquarium. So this gets rid of the big bulk of the first amount of tannins, and then you can just enjoy the botanicals breaking down and giving the water a little bit of colour. But there is no real wrong or right answer to what you need to do. So we are done. Now this is proper done. The next time you will see this tank, we will be getting the fish in there, I think. Unless I give you another update tomorrow or something. Who knows, who knows. But I am glad we put those botanicals in there. The Lipil tree pods and the older cones. I just think it adds a little bit of something, doesn't it? It adds a little bit of difference, and we are ultimately gearing this up for the Betta. And they do like that tannin-stained water. They do better generally in that tannin-stained water. So this is just going to help him out with that. So yeah, cool. I will see you in about 7 to 10 days, and you get to see the wicked fighter that we have chosen for this tank. And he's going to look ace in here. Welcome back. It's been roughly about 10 days since you last saw this aquarium, and it is doing really well. So for one, the lily hasn't melted, which is always a bonus, because Those lilies can be a bit funny, and when you transport them and move them from tank to tank, they can just lose all their leaves for no reason. So I'm glad that hasn't happened, and it should have happened in the first 10 days. The other thing is all of the botanicals have released a slight tan into the water. It's a slight yellowing, but nothing too major. So that's going to be really good for the Betta health-wise, and, you know, well, I say natural habitat. This Betta is definitely not natural. He is very strange colours. Strange. Anyway, you'll get to see him in a minute. Botanicals are doing well, leaves are doing well, plants are doing well, everything's doing well, but there are some things that we need to do first before going and getting this Betta fish. Now the main thing is going to be testing the water. So we are going to be checking for ammonia, we are going to be checking for nitrite. Now the reason for that is that we did put that scaper soil in there. Now, I've never had a major problem with it, to be honest, but some people do suffer with little ammonia spikes when they're using any of the substrates in the soils. I have found the Oasi scaper soil to be, well, really good in that fact. I've not actually had a test or read ammonia from the Oasi soil, but there is always a chance, and it is always best to play it safe. So we're going to test ammonia just to check everything's going all right. The filter should have dealt with it, but who knows. And the other things, we're just going to run through a complete test to make sure everything's going okay. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the whole test. I'm going to show you a couple of the results. But if you want to go and see a full test, you can go and watch my testing video on how to do all of the tests and test kits, what they mean, what you need to do to them, so on and so on. So as I say, we are going to test for everything, but our main one is going to be ammonia that we're going to test on screen. Everything else I'll just quickly run through off screen so I don't have to bore you, and I can just let you know the results. So with all the tests done, everything is looking good. We've got ammonia at 0, we've got nitrite at 0, we've got nitrate at 0. pHs is about middle of the road, but that will come down as the tank matures and those leaf litters and seed pods break down. And yeah, we are ready to go. So I guess we're off to the fish shop. We are back from the shop. I'm going to use that chair as a table, and we have got our fish. Now, they have been in the dark for 3/4 of an hour to an hour maybe while I was travelling back from the fish shop. So we're going to give them a bit of a slow acclimatisation. We're going to turn the lights off, turn this light off or down, and it will be all you guys' favourite part of every video that people keep commenting on. It's flamingo cup of acclimatisation time. Now, on top of the Betta that you all knew I was getting, I suppose you didn't know what colour he is, but you might be able to see in the video now, but I think he's going to look great. I also saw some things out there that I have never kept before, so I got a couple of them, and I think they're going to be cool. So we have given these 3 about 45 minutes to an hour now to acclimatise. We've got the water from the tank into the bag several times. The temperatures are the same, everything seems to be the same. They look like they want to get out. Well, the Betta does. The 2 things, okay, the 2 snails don't look like they want to get out, but we're going to get them out because, yeah, I think they're ready and I want to see them in their home. So we're going to do the easy ones first, which are our 2 snails. Now these, I had to buy, I'd done a bit of research while I was out at the shop, and these are white wizard snails. Now, they're quite new to the hobby supposedly, but they seem quite easy to keep from what I've read. Now there should be enough biofilm and algae and things in this aquarium, but I will supplement their diet with some vegetables and things like that to keep them happy. But those 2 are going to be cool. So yeah, white wizard snails, something that I've never kept before. And then lastly to go into the tank is the reason I wanted to set up this tank, and that is this super awesome marbled Betta. Now I'm actually going to try and use the flamingo cup to coax him out because none of my small nets are anywhere to be found at the moment, and this way I can get minimal bag water in the aquarium. Oh my word, you guys can see him when the lights come on. I'll give him a little bit of time to settle down and then I'll show you him in all his glory. We are back and the tank is doing so well. Now it's actually been a fair few days actually, probably 2 or 3 since you last saw this tank. The little Betta is settling in so well, and the marbled Betta has been lovingly named by Quinn already. He is called Bing. Don't know where that came from. Oh, I do know where that came from. There's a cartoon rabbit, so that's where that came from. But he is now called Bing the Betta, which I think works. And to be fair, while we're discussing names, if you think I'm going to have 2 white wizard snails in my house and not call them Gandalf and Saruman, you've got another thing coming. There is no way I could call them anything else. So we've got Bing, Gandalf and Saruman. What more could you want? But the tank has settled in lovely. Everything is doing well. The lily still hasn't melted, which is a bonus. So I think we are out of the woods now for worrying about that. And again, all the Anubiases and the Bucephalandras are all looking good. Everything is doing well. I'm glad I dropped those botanicals in there though, because that orangey brown actually breaks up the brightness and the greens and the greys in the aquarium. And also I've noticed, actually living with this tank, the lipple pods actually sort of match the colour of the lily leaf. So it blends the top of the tank with the bottom of the tank, which is a really nice thing to do. And that was super unintentional, but it's these little things that can bring a scape and an aquarium together. I'm really happy that Bing has settled in really well. He's actually a really big character. He is out the front, he is angry, he is always there, and he is absolutely smashing the food. We're feeding him the nano pellets, and yeah, he quite happily chases them around and goes for them. So I'm really excited to see how he grows. A lot of the time I have seen that marbled Bettas can change colour. That's just part and parcel of owning Bettas, I suppose. You know, Bettas do change colour, it's something to be expected. And with his coloration, I'm not expecting him to stay that colour forever. But we'll see how he evolves in coloration over the next few months, and I'll keep you all updated via, well, update videos and posts on my social media. Just thought I'd better give you all an update as well. Even after the massive upheaval on his tank, the blue alien Betta is still going strong and he's still buzzing about, so no worries there. So I hope you've enjoyed this scape. It doesn't have to be difficult, it doesn't have to be expensive, you don't have to go mental and buy loads of rock and wood. It can just be a 2-kilo bag of rock, a few little plants, well, one very big plant, and a handful of botanicals. Oh, and of course, Bing, Saruman and Gandalf. What more could you want? Keep an eye out on the channel because we've got some big projects coming up over the next few weeks. I've got my work cut out, but they are going to be cool. I've sort of maybe bitten off more than I can chew. But anyway, it will be fine. Watch out for those because they're going to be good. I'll see you in the next one.